Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Analytical Lion. I'm Josh Davis. As always, I appreciate you all for joining me. I'm going to talk about March Madness. I'm going to talk about all the games leading up to the Sweet 16, some of the best ones that happened. I'm going to talk about all the other Sweet 16 games, going to preview them. It's been pretty chalky so far, honestly, overall. Let's dive into it. We had a couple of nice upsets, mainly that High Point one against Wisconsin. A lot of fun, huge comeback, some deep threes. But obviously, High Point ran into that buzzsaw of Arkansas in the second round. And so Arkansas ended up moving on to the Sweet 16. They will play number one Arizona. I'll talk about that matchup a little later. Had a couple of other interesting games, especially in the second round. That Florida-Iowa game, of course, that's really the one big upset that we've had so far. It's been a very chalky tournament. Almost all of the favorites have made it to the Sweet 16. In fact, more than half of the Sweet 16 are exact same teams from last year's Sweet 16, as 9 of the 16 teams are exactly the same teams that were in the Sweet 16 last year. If you're picking teams that have been based on success from previous years or just the top seeds, you're doing awesome. It's been a pretty boring tournament in that regard. But yeah, those 9-4 game here, which between Iowa and Nebraska, two absolutely fantastic round of 32 games in the Big Ten. That Iowa-Florida game, absolutely incredible. It looked like Florida was going to finish that comeback, and then they ended up choking at the end. And then that Vanderbilt-Nebraska game, just fantastic stuff. I was rooting for Vanderbilt because I'd picked Vanderbilt to go to my Final Four, and that is an unfortunate way for them to end their season. That ball did anything but go in. And it was a great job by Nebraska with the defense on that first possession there. Vanderbilt's main last possession there. And then that possession, then going in transition, taking it to the rack, getting that two-pointer. That's why Nebraska's a successful basketball team. You don't see enough teams do that. A lot of teams settle for threes. They try and slow down, get the shot. No, go get the shot. Don't worry about the clock. It's just a fantastic game. And then for Tanner, that shot from way beyond half court, just a miracle heave. And for it to look that good and almost go in, you could almost blame the pumped up balls, but that's a completely different conversation. But yeah, some really, really fun games early on. We even had that St. John's Kansas game that was an absolutely incredible finish. Dude who hadn't scored a point all game gets the game winner in the clutch moment, lifts St. John's to go to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 1999, I believe. So great stuff there. But yeah, let's talk about that. Let's start up here at the top left. Duke versus St. John's, a 1-5 matchup. How much fun is this, right? We saw Duke struggle a little bit against Siena in that first round. Not what we expected from this top overall seed. They'd looked untouchable all season long, and then they get to the tournament, and whoa, they're struggling against the 16 seed. Then they were struggling a little bit in the first half against TCU, and we're like, is Duke this good? Then they dominated TCU in the second half. They got to their spots. They played their game, won 81-58, held a really strong offensive TCU team to just 58 points, and they will move on to play St. John's, which is just a headliner matchup. Heavyweight versus heavyweight, elite coaching all the way around, with Coach Pitino and Coach Shire, two of my very favorite coaches in college basketball, going head-to-head for a spot in the Elite Eight. That one's going to be a ton of fun on March 27th at 7:10 p.m. in prime time. Let's move down to Michigan State, UConn. The 2-3 seeds made it. Michigan State has looked very dominant with wins over North Dakota State and Louisville. Never really has struggled at any point in this tournament. They're just a really solid overall team. The Big Ten has had a lot of success in this tournament with those top teams. UConn, they were struggling a little bit in that UCLA game. UCLA made a push back without Tyler Bilodeau, their best player. They were down. It was a 4-point game with a couple minutes left, and then UConn just went on a huge run, hit their shots, pushed that up to a 14-point game again, and then iced it away. So that's a streaky team that when they get hot, they get really hot. We already know how much success Coach Hurley has had. He knows how to win games in March. There's no concern about that. And with Coach Izzo on the other side, that's going to be an absolutely fantastic game at 9:45 on that night. That one's on Friday. So a couple games in the top left on Friday night. That's going to be some fantastic basketball. In terms of who I would pick in these games, I'm going to lean Duke in the first one. I just think that when they're on their game, they're a little more talented. And with how much St. John's struggled against Kansas, which I think was a little bit of an overrated 4 seed in the first place, you never know at this point in the tournament. Overrated, underrated means absolutely nothing when you get to the Sweet 16. All these teams have earned their spot and they all deserve to be here. But I do think I'd lean Duke in that one. And then in this Michigan State-UConn game, I just really trust what Michigan State's done all season long. They're an extremely tough team. They had a rough end of the season, but man, that's a good basketball team, and I would trust them to win in a clutch situation. They just haven't really shown very many weaknesses at all in this tournament in their first 2 games. Let's move down to the Thursday games at 7:30, Iowa, Nebraska, the Big Ten corn matchup we've all been waiting for. It doesn't get much better than this. A rivalry game in the tournament, in the Sweet 16. Both of these programs on historical runs. Nobody expected Iowa to be here. As a Penn State guy, we just beat Iowa a month ago in an embarrassing game for the Hawkeyes. And to contrast from where they were playing there to where they're playing now, it's unreal. They just beat the defending national champions in a really well-played game. They outplayed Florida the entirety of that game. That was not a fluke win. I think it was actually a little fluky for how much Florida was still in it, because Iowa was clearly the better team. That's what's so impressive. And they're facing a Nebraska team that shut down Troy to just 47 points in the first round and then physically handled Vanderbilt. It's a Vanderbilt team that did everything they could to win that game, and Nebraska made the clutch shots. They're shooting the ball so well. You got heart players all around with Hoiberg and Sanford and all those guys on that team that are coming together and making the clutch shots. I think Nebraska's going to win this one. Anything could happen in this game. Then we move down to Illinois-Houston, another 2-3 game. This was supposed to be the chaos side of the bracket, and it was up top, but at the bottom, Houston and Illinois have just dominated. Houston looks like one of the best teams in the country. They, of course, were a play away from winning last year's national title. I'm going to lean towards them in this game because, listen, Illinois has dominated teams with their offense so far all season long, and in the tournament they scored 105 against Penn, and then 76 against VCU, and now they face a Houston team where they've ridden their defense all the way. Defense wins in March. I'm going to trust Houston in this one, but listen, if Illinois hits their shots and they're hitting contested stuff, they're the kind of team with Stojakovic and all those guys that defense might not matter. They're that good at shooting the rock. And if your defense is there and they're still hitting them, Illinois is going to move on to the Elite Eight. Let's move up to the top left section of the bracket. More chalk up here. We got the 1 and 4 seed going up against each other. Arkansas dodged the bullet with High Point. They took care of business there. They've looked really impressive. Darius Acuff is looking like the best player in the tournament. Defensively, the rebounding, it's all coming together for Coach Cal and this team. It's reminiscent of those old Kentucky teams that they had the talent, and then they would just pummel you physically as well. Malik Thomas is such a dog. He's really showing out in this tournament. He's showing out why he was so highly rated coming out of high school. He's somebody that was really upset that PSU leave the state, but he's a really good player. He's showing out for Coach Cal at Arkansas, and now we'll see if they can do it against maybe the best team in the tournament right now in Arizona. They went up against an extremely talented Utah State team and just dominated them, made it look easy the whole way around. The last couple months of the season, Arizona has been playing the best basketball in the country, and Arkansas has been right up there in that conversation. These are two teams at their absolute best right now, playing on Thursday night. I'm going to lean Arkansas in this one. They were my pick to go to the Final Four. I picked them beating Utah State in this game. I had Utah State beating Arizona. Arizona has defied those odds in terms of picking against me. I mean, what do I know? Arizona's one of the best teams in the country. I thought they would slip up early. They have completely negated that. And once they got through those early tests, they're the kind of team that is talented enough to just go all the way. So I could obviously see Arizona going here. They're favored by 7.5 points, but I do think Arkansas is playing a little bit of a cleaner offensive game right now. Let me move down to Texas and Purdue, the highest seed to go to the Sweet 16. Texas has gone through that first four, and they've built momentum with that win over NC State. They went and hung on against BYU, took down A.J. DeBonsa. Then they went and dominated Gonzaga defensively. Gonzaga was a team that struggled at times in the half-court offense, and Texas just took that and ran with it and forced them to struggle and play their own pace. Listen, now they're playing against Purdue, Big Ten champions. If you're going to try and force Purdue to play your pace, you're going to have to guard extremely well. Trey Coffin-Wren, Fletcher Lawyer, all these guys on Purdue, they have so many weapons, it's impossible to shut down one of them or two of them. You got to play the entire squad. Purdue's going to throw so many different sets at you. They're going to switch defenses throughout the game. This is a really tough matchup for Texas, and I'm going to lean Purdue in this one, but it's March. It's March Madness. The magic could keep going for the Longhorns. You never know what happens in the Sweet 16. Down here, we got more chalk. Michigan versus Alabama, another 1-4 matchup. I picked Alabama to lose in the first round to Hofstra, and that pick is looking pretty bad right now. I thought Hofstra would be able to make Alabama's guards struggle a lot. I thought Bama would struggle a lot more defensively in this tournament. They just dominated Texas Tech, put up 90 points and a huge 25-point win. This is one of those teams that they are red hot coming out of the SEC, and they're going up against a Michigan team that has just dominated St. Louis as well, who was my pick to beat Michigan in that game. I'll just give it to you straight. I had St. Louis and Texas Tech in this game, and neither of them are there. So this region has not gone as I expected it to, but it's been really exciting nonetheless. And the top seeds have fought their way and come through this area of the bracket. Michigan's favored by 10.5 here. That's crazy to me with how well Alabama's been scoring the basketball. They shoot more threes than anybody else in the country. If they keep staying hot, I don't know how Michigan wins this game because they simply don't shoot enough threes to keep up. If Michigan's going to win this game, it's going to be with the size. It's going to be shutting down the rebounding and not letting Alabama get any easy second chances. And then finally, our last matchup here, the Sweet 16, Tennessee versus Iowa State. Iowa State has simply looked like one of the best teams in the country in this tournament. 108 points against Tennessee State, 82 in a dominant effort against Kentucky, with Milan Momcilovic and a slew of other guys putting in efforts that were really strong against Kentucky. I'm really confident in this team. I picked them to win the national title this year, and they've given me absolutely no reasons to believe why they can't do it. And now they're going up against a tough Tennessee team that knocked off Virginia. They're continuing to rebound really well. It's the thing that I talked about with Tennessee. They're the best offensive rebounding team in the tournament. This is not an easy matchup for Iowa State, but if they continue shooting the rock well and they continue having confidence from beyond the arc, they'll be fine, and I think they'll be moving on to the Elite Eight. Quick little episode talking about the Sweet 16. As always, I thank you all for joining me. Have a great week watching college basketball all Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Get posted on your couch. Watch some top hoops in March Madness. See you next week. And as always, thank you for joining me on the Analytical Lion.